when we get to the question and answer session, please make it very brisk and make the questions pointed in a manner that they will be answered briskly as well. So we'll quickly roll into the program proper by inviting the chairman of the Presidential Task Force to please make his remarks, after which we take technical briefings, updates, and then we'll take your questions before the responses come in. Mr. Chairman, sir.
Members of the Presidential Task Force, distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the press, once more, our sincere apologies for starting this briefing at this late. We had a whole day of very intense discussions on the stage at which we are now in our national response. So thank you, our colleagues here of the fourth realm, for your understanding. However, let me welcome you all to the national briefing by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 for Monday, 10th August 2020. On Thursday, 6th August 2020, the Presidential Task Force intimated Nigerians with a new direction of our further easing the lockdown in our national response to COVID-19 pandemic. As we progress in this new phase of the eased lockdown, continual monitoring of global and national science and data remains the basis for strengthening our efforts to contain the virus. Key sectors that the Presidential Task Force will be watching, in addition to general level of compliance, are the education and transportation sectors. Schools are gradually reopening with the commencement of preparations for critical examinations. Guidelines have already been issued by the Federal Ministry of Education to all stakeholders. For the transportation sector, the Presidential Task Force continues to follow the developments in the railway and air transportation, respectively. Nigerians and sector stakeholders are admonished to ensure compliance with the various non-pharmaceutical measures already in place. The Presidential Task Force and the Federal Ministry of Aviation are working rapidly towards reopening of the international airspace to allow for international flights. The Presidential Task Force will also be looking closely at the issue of risk communication and community engagement. Messaging and consultations shall be intensified to drive the level of awareness and compliance to the wider population using mediums and platforms that are most effective, generally and specifically. Today, the global numbers of confirmed cases surpass 20 million. And there's a record of over 750,000 deaths. These statistics remain serious warning signals, accompanied with pains and anguish to families and friends that have lost loved ones. Africa's confirmed cases have surpassed the 1 million mark, which is a landmark. The challenge, however, is that the true numbers could be higher, because we suspect strongly that for every reported case, up to 7 might have been missed. Ladies and gentlemen, the numbers are surging. Community spread has taken root and expanded beyond the urban areas. Now we have infections right into the rural communities and localized areas. The watchword is vigilance and taking extra care. Nigeria today has 46,577 confirmed cases and 945 cumulative deaths. And that remains respectively the third and the fourth highest in these parameters on the continent of Africa. As we emphasized at the last briefing, Nigeria is yet to reach the peak of the pandemic. Therefore, the low test case confirmation numbers coming out daily should not be misinterpreted to mean that we have overcome this virus. We have over time ramped up testing, but more needs to be done to raise the quantum of tests per million. Our analysis has, however, shown that 5 states of the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory, only 5, still account for 60% of cumulative cases nationwide. 2, 689 out of the 774 local governments as of today have reported a case. Therefore, 3, there are only 85 local governments in 20 states still have not reported any case or tested positive. And 4, 50% of all the cases are in 20 local governments. This statistics and information is important so that we can now understand the prevalence and the generality of the spread of the coronavirus in our communities. As of today, we have only 85 local governments out of the 774 that have not reported a case of COVID-19. Going by the surge and the growth in our figures, I do not rule out the possibility that very soon all the 774 local governments in Nigeria will report a case or two of COVID-19. The PTF is happy to note that many survivors are telling their stories and sharing them in the social media. The stories of those who doubted the existence of the virus and became unfortunately infected are now expressing appreciation for timely intervention of the case management team. That provides a compelling proof that the virus is real. I'm also happy to note that the electronic media has taken up our challenge of joining the risk communication as depicted over the weekend with the face-to-face interview conducted by the Arise News team, ably led by Amaka Ode. We thank the management of Arise News for the privilege of really promoting the experiences and the truth and the factual depiction of people who have been infected and who are still undergoing care in the National Hospital. We hope that other news medias will take up that challenge and go ahead so that we can drive this message home that COVID-19 is real, is still around with us, and people we know are going through the processes of recovery or receiving management care in our different facilities. It is also important I inform you that Nigeria continues to play its role in supporting the fight against COVID-19 on the West African sub-region. Last week, men and women of the Nigeria Air Force distributed PPEs and medical supplies donated by the West African Health Organization and other partners to our neighbors in the West African sub-region. However, to show true leadership against the pandemic, we as a people and country need to contain the virus by doing all we can to protect ourselves, our loved ones, and the country at large. I now have the singular honor and privilege to call on the Honorable Minister of Health, thereafter the DG or his representative of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, and the National Coordinator to give us their updates and briefs. I thank you once more for your attention and have a very pleasant and good evening.